I think we're live. All right. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. My guest today is Harris Sultan. Hi, Harris. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
So, guys, I'll basically give you a brief idea as to why I'm talking to Harris. So, first of all, shout out to Waleed. Waleed introduced me to Harris. If you guys don't know Waleed, you should go and check out my conversation with Waleed, and please subscribe to Waleed's YouTube channel, which is Be the Wit. So, basically, I've been following the ex-Muslim movement now for the last 2-3 years. It all started with me, I started reading blogs written by Sarah Heather, and they had this organization called ExMuslims of North America. And since then, I was kind of fascinated by this movement. So I had decided I'm going to start talking to ex-Muslims. And as I'm a creature of habit, before I start talking to people, I like to read a lot of their literature, a lot of what they're doing. And it was in this process that my first conversation was with Waleed, and now my second conversation is with Harris. So Haris, when you say you're an ex-Muslim, what exactly does that mean? What is Muslim? Because to me, Muslim is not a race, because there are people of different races who are Muslim. So what exactly does it mean?
Well, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Muslim obviously is not a race. It's a faith-based identity. How you identify yourself spiritually, so to speak. Spirituality and religion are usually mixed together, and to be honest, I do kind of see them together if there is an ideology behind it. So anyone who believes in the religion of Islam, Allah being the God and Muhammad being his last prophet, it's somewhat, and Quran being the literal word of Allah, is pretty much the definition, the most inclusive definition of a Muslim. So I was that by birth, not by intuition. I didn't choose to be that. I just happened to be born in a Muslim house, just like most people are born in their household. They choose to, by default, they become the part of that religion. So that's who I was. I mean, and then obviously being by birth Muslim, I would study Islam later on, and I would question it. I would look into the philosophy of it. And then I would start seeing problems with it. And then I thought that this is definitely not for me. So ex-Muslim basically just means someone who used to be a Muslim, basically.
So for me, ex-Muslim would be, if one was to use terms of logic, it would be like a negation. I just don't believe in what Islam claims, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a negation of Muslim or Islamic faith, basically. So that's why we get criticized a lot. That, well, it's a negative identity. So like, it's not someone who would identify themselves as I'm an ex-drug addict, or I am an ex-astrologer. So I see their point, but astrology is not as big a problem as Islam. So that's why this identity, even though it's a negation, matters. And it sends a political message to the world. It also sends a political message, or a message of support to a lot of struggling Muslims within Islamic society, that there is such a thing called ex-Muslim, because a lot of people believe that, oh, we are so lucky that we were born in the one true religion, and no one, because it's a true religion, no one ever leaves it. So now they see that ex-Muslim, that's a two-pronged attack they've always had. One, nobody leaves Islam, and B, look, even whites are converting to Islam. Which is, again, it's grossly exaggerated, that claim. And also, some studies have shown that 60 to 70% of converts to Islam actually deconvert themselves after some time. So religion is based around myths, and to defeat religion, you just have to break these myths one by one. So that's why I tend to use, I mean, I'm not the only one, obviously. Although I might be one of, I don't know, I've been an ex-Muslim for, I'd say, about 11, 12 years maybe. now, but I only came out as an ex-Muslim quite recently, probably about 1.5 years ago. I think Maryam Namazi was probably the first one who popularized this term ex-Muslim, which has really stuck. It's a very it's becoming more and more popular and becoming a headache for Islamists.
Here's my thing. So when it comes to you, so you were born in Pakistan, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Pakistan.
Born and raised in Pakistan. So when was your tipping point? Like it's obvious. I know you're based in the West right now, so it's a very different thing. In terms of freedom to think too. A lot of people, are obsessed with freedom of speech. People don't realize that sometimes in cultures there is no freedom to think either. Yeah, because you're so cocooned and you're so worried about, what will chachu say, or what will taya say, or what will my mommy say, or what will anybody in the society say, that we kind of self-censor our own thoughts and we don't even think about certain ideas. So when were you, what was that stage in your life where you had started questioning tenets of Islam and you're like, this doesn't make sense, man? Was it while you were in Pakistan or when you moved out of Pakistan?
No, definitely. Ever since I was a kid, I mean, I obviously didn't understand the tenets of Islam. The actual moral problems of Islam and the scientific problems in the Quran, I obviously didn't know them. But the philosophical problems I had with the concept of a God, that was always a problem for me. Like, I mean, I always wondered. I was always fascinated by the night sky, and I looked up and I'm like, wow, this is huge. This universe is huge. I mean, what is beyond the edge of space? I mean, what is happening there? So is God living there? I mean, we were told Allah is the biggest thing, like he's so big, but you can't see it. And then I used to think, well, what was Allah doing before? I mean, all these philosophical questions. I mean, I can't channel down now exactly what exactly thought came to my mind, but one of the basic questions I still remember asking my mother was, who created God? If God created everything, who created God? And then mother would basically say, well, God has always been around. That didn't sat well with me. God is so big, like, I mean, I remember once my father took me to Minar-e-Pakistan, which is a tower of Pakistan's independence in Lahore. And it was the biggest thing I had ever sing. It was huge. It was like, I don't know, probably by today's standards, it's nothing. It's probably only maybe 25, 30 stories high. But it was this huge structure. And I asked my father, was that God? He said, no, that's not God. He said, so I said, well, that was the biggest thing I'd ever seen. He said, no, God is even bigger than that. So, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I couldn't imagine how something could be so big. And then as I was growing up older and older, and I was looking at how huge the universe is. I mean, I remember in my 14, 15, 16, I was becoming quite firm with my faith. I mean, I just couldn't do anything half-heartedly. I couldn't be a Muslim, but at the same time, just pervert girls and, do all types of sneaky things that any other teenage boy would do. I would always have this conflict in my brain that, well, that's not what a religion teaches. So I was trying to be more and more firm with my religion, but these philosophical problems were always there in my mind. I mean, Pascal's wager is something that is so talked about. I actually came up with, on my own with that Pascal wager.
Wow.
I didn't even know. I don't think I'm the only one, because I think my uncle had never heard of Pascal's wager either, but he, I think, came up with that too. And he told me, he said, well, what if you're wrong? If God doesn't exist, fine. But if you are wrong and God does exist, then you're going to burn in hell for eternity. So it's quite a common thing for a thinking person to come up with. So anyway, so I came up with that, and I said, yeah, but then again, later on, when I thought about it, Pascal's wager is one of the most pathetic things ever. So yeah. So I mean, I always had these thoughts, but in order for me, but I didn't have the counter arguments. I didn't know the alternatives. Yes, I always loved the Discovery Channel documentaries on space, the natural the nature documentaries always fascinated me and all that. So those parts were all good. So I was always somewhat in touch with science, and this myopic, very narrow worldview that religions gave us, it just didn't sit well with me. And then obviously I moved to Australia when I was 19. I think I was still a Muslim. But then again, my worldview, like I went to the university and my worldview was obviously expanding. I was no longer just all about what Islam is or what all about Pakistan is. I mean, I could see the world. I mean, that's why, and I didn't only just lose my religion when I left Australia, when I left Pakistan. I also kind of lost my nationalism as well. When you actually go and live in different countries or travel other countries, you would actually notice that this nationalism thing, it's another form of a dogma that people get so blindly dwelled into. So anyway, so just coming back to religion. So yeah, I mean, I always had these problems, philosophical problems. I didn't have the scientific and moral problems. That came in a lot later. I'd say probably when I was 21, 20, 22, when I started reading Islam in tafsirs and hadiths, and when I started reading it thoroughly, and very early on, I could start seeing the problems with it.
So how was the reaction of the immediate family and the larger extended family and friends when you said if the step A you start questioning it, and then step B you say I'm out of this club, so now what?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have thought about it a lot afterwards. Like, I've always been when I came to Australia, right? So I was 19, my whole family was in Pakistan. I was quite independent. So I didn't need anyone, so to speak. I was independent. I was working on my own, and I had my own job, and I was studying, and I could support myself. So if my parents had said F off, that would not have been the end of me. Whereas a lot of people who actually live with their parents, etc. So it's a lot harder for them. But I still hadn't. I don't think I initially told my parents. I was thinking about these things, but I would briefly see those things, and my mother thought that that was just a phase. He's probably not going to, he's probably going to come back into Islam or whatever. So, but that wasn't happening. So I think my mother and my sister were probably the first ones, because when you find out something, it was Carl Sagan when he said, when you're in love, you want to tell the world. So when I was finding this out, I was like, wow, this universe is amazing. And now I'm actually free from this superstition and magics and angels and demons. I want to tell the world. But I still didn't tell everyone. Like, I mean, I would have little comments here and there where people would think that, okay, well, he's still a Muslim, but he's just he's modernizing or whatever. They could see that I was no longer fasting. They could see I was no longer praying or anything. But I think I'd say probably I also started living with a white Australian woman without marriage. So that was another thing that they realized. Okay, he's and I always say, well, marriage is useless. I mean, I don't believe in a piece of paper. I mean, it's just a piece of paper for me. So yeah. So I mean, my parents kind of worked out. They didn't react too strongly. I think they just kept taking a back foot. Yeah, and I kept becoming brazen, more and more brazen, and I think then eventually I started, like, now I was like in my late 20s. I had built my own house. I had a steady job, and I was totally independent of everyone. So I could actually say whatever I want, whatever I believed in, whatever I thought was right. So when I started saying it, I think they were disappointed at first, but they didn't cut off their ties with me. I mean, my family has always been very moderate, so to speak. So they didn't, as I said, they were disappointed, but they still stayed in touch with me. They still love me, like any parents would love their family members. So yeah.
I'm so glad that you did not have to go through this, because while I was researching, like I said, I was actually researching the ex-Muslim movement for the last 2-3 years, and there's a trend that I find. I mean, I'm so happy that you did not have to go through this, but it's basically, even if the family accepts, the family was like, please don't tell the other relatives, at least pretend to be a Muslim around them. And then if they find out, I've seen people actually getting death threats, people people being banished socially, and they literally, it's like the,
Oh,
wind
yeah.
with their sails, and you're rudderless and you don't know what to do. And why I felt really bad was because here I am someone who has totally denied divinity since I don't know how many years, and I did not have to go through this at all. The reason is theological and societal and personal. It's a three-layer reason, where
Yeah.
theologically Hinduism does not have that problem, and I don't know why, but I'm not saying this in a patronizing way, but I genuinely started feeling bad. I was like, in my head, I was like, "Ye kyun ho raha hai in logon ke sath? Why is it the way it is?" And then I was like, I don't know what to do. And my follow-up to you would be like, okay, now you've declared yourself an ex-Muslim. A lot of people have done that. And I asked the same question to Waleed, that, the movement needs to start thinking on those lines. Because we may say, like you just said, I get that nationalism and all these things are just, at the end of the day, they are myths and they are, stories created. But human beings cling on to stories. Human beings cling on to identities. It's I mean, I have never bought the idea that it's good enough to be on Team Homo sapien. It is only good enough to be on Team Homo sapien when we get attacked by an alien. Otherwise, it's not. And that's just the way we are as human beings. We're always going to be clinging on to some identity. Even the free speech movement, everybody who believes in free speech, they come together. Why? Because they believe in the idea of free speech. So that's their club. Kind of, we have, so they could say they're part of the free speech club. So identity politics is not going to go. Now in this, when people say I'm an ex-Muslim and they get out, so what is the next step? Is there a serious effort to develop a sort of community where ex-Muslims can come together and have some sort of thing? Because you have to understand the importance of ritual in our life. Even sports has ritual. When India and Pakistan play a cricket match, what is the huddle? It's a ritual.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I agree with you. I mean, we are social animals, so we do need similar-minded people, and we do want to have some sort of an identity. A lot of, yeah, I didn't have to go through that experience, but I was well aware that if I was in Pakistan, the story would have been totally different. If I was living under the roof of my parents, the story would have been totally different. I would not have been able to come out. Now, this is why I decided to come out as an ex-Muslim, because in 2017, Ayaz Nizami was, who was a blogger around my age. He was just professing atheism. He wasn't. I don't think he was being abusive or blasphemous in that sense. And he was arrested, put in jail, still in jail. We don't know what's going on to him, what's going on with him. That played a big role. I think a week later or something, when I heard the news, I opened up my page. So, okay, well, I said, well, I am somewhat lucky. I'm independent. I live in a free country. I may not be able to go back to Pakistan. So I knew that. I weighed that in. I was also a little bit worried that maybe someone might come to my house or something, or, that fear might still be. I mean, it may not be very unreasonable to think that that could happen at some point. Although I've done everything I can to make sure that my address is not listed or anything. But that angered me. That told me that, okay, well, I am lucky, fine, I'm living a great life. But there's so many people who, who don't have this luxury, and they're living every day in this suffocating environment that is superimposed on them from the outside. So that's why I thought, well, I'll just start talking. I knew about some other ex-Muslims, but I didn't think there were that many ex-Muslims who were actually reaching out to the actual Pakistani public. So my goal was to just somehow make content that is visible to the Pakistani and probably somewhat Indian Muslims too. That it is possible. I mean, ex-Muslim movement as in Britain has been going on for a while. Ex-Muslims of North America have been doing well for a while. As you mentioned, Sarah Hayder is a part of that. Ex-Muslim in Norway is doing the same. Then I learned how many actual atheists there are in Pakistan. And then I think the survey was done in 2017. Gallup poll that estimated out of a sample of 1,000 or maybe 10,000 people, No, I think it was 1,000. That estimated 4% of Pakistanis are confirmed atheists. That's about 2 million. That's a pretty big number.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. I think it's 2%, 4 million. No, it's one of the other. No, I think it's, yes, 4%, which is 2 million. I think that's the right number. I've been saying that. I've been quoting that. That means that it's the second biggest denomination in Pakistan. I mean, I think Hindus are only 1%, Christians are 3%, Ahmadis I think the Ahmadis are probably around 4%. So it's next to the second biggest denomination. Yes, there's a huge elephant in the room too, which is Muslims, which is 96%, or was it somewhere around 90%, I think. So that's huge. So that's a big problem. But I thought that's what motivated me to actually start talking about it, start making content. These basic ideas, these basic arguments against religion that majority of Pakistanis or Muslims in general just don't know about. Philosophical arguments, moral arguments, and scientific errors in the Quran. So those things were like open and shut case for me. And I thought, okay, well, let's share these ideas and see how it goes. Now, coming to your question, sorry, I rambled on a little bit, but I just wanted to touch base that actually why I got into it, because what you said, it is true. A lot of ex-Muslims go through a lot. Even ex-Muslims in Australia are in a lot of them that I know are in the closet because, you know, they're young, they don't want to offend the family, and etc. So yeah, we do need a social structure. Now, the next step, the logical step is we cannot tell people. I mean, I don't know any prominent ex-Muslim who actually says, you know what, we have to wage war against Islam. I mean, we joke about it sometimes, and we'll wage jihad against Islam or whatever. But obviously, it's not violent. There's nothing violent in that. I mean, yes, we do, because we're free from this ideology, so we can criticize it, which we do criticize it. And yes, I mean, like any other group, we would like our numbers to grow. But the main point of the whole movement is that people who do leave faith, people who do become ex-Muslims, they have a right to live, and they cannot be discriminated. And we need to change the Islamic establishment, and they have to be more accepting towards ex-Muslims. Apostasy has always been a big issue in the Islamic world. In my recent debate, I think you tweeted that clip as well. I had a debate with Uthman Badr. He again reaffirmed his position that ex-Muslims should be killed. Now, that is a common view amongst many Islamic countries, even though the argument that we get from the moderate Muslims is that there's no apostasy. Apostasy should be killed is written nowhere in the Quran. But we know, I mean, Islam is not all about the Quran. I mean, there's hadith, there's jurisprudence, Sharia, the fiqh, so to speak. It is designed around the Sunnah, the Quran, and the hadith, etc. So that is a primary goal, that we have to normalize the dissent. We have to, first of all, tell the world there are people called ex-Muslims. The numbers are growing. The survey by Pew conducted last year in America said that 24% of American Muslims born in America are no longer Muslims. So that number is growing, and it's probably going to keep growing because, as Mariam Namazi said, that social media is doing to Islam what a printing press did to Christianity. So more and more people learn about these counter arguments against Islam and religion. More and more people are going to apostatize. So I think we do need a community. A lot of these ex-Muslim organizations are actually doing just that. They are making all these little communities where ex-Muslim. We have a little one here in Australia as well, and I go to the meetups and everything. So I mean, it's a good thing for younger ex-Muslims. I mean, ex-Muslims who are young, who are still living with their parents, who are 19, 20, 21, they're just becoming young adults. And if they are not finding it interesting or to be with their other Muslim cousins who always talk about religion, etc. And social isolation is a big thing. And as I said, I mean, we're social animals, so we need some sort of community. So that is a big part of us to create a community.
Yeah, and somebody has to fix that problem because, like I said in my own story, all my friends are not Nastikas. I mean, I'll try to explain the term Nastika because,
I think I know. I watched the Gnostic movie of Amitabh Bachchan when I was a kid.
oh no, that's not good enough because see, here's the problem. The
Because
problem Hindus like me face is that we get clubbed with the. I think atheism has different types too. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but yeah, atheists are of different kinds because atheism for for the Abrahamic religions would be the rejection of or the negation of the Abrahamic belief and the Abrahamic structure. But when it comes to Hinduism, the negation would be of the Hindu structure. And the Hindu structure, like I said, does not have blasphemy, does not have the concept of apostasy, does not have the God obsession that Abrahamic religions have. Like Hinduism is divided into what we call darshanas. Darshana is a Sanskrit word which literally means insight, as in how do you look at the world and what are the dialectics and the epistemology you use. So we have 6 pramanas in Hinduism. So there will be pratyaksha praman, shabda praman, arthapatti, etc., etc. It's basically direct perception, analogy and comparison, inference, verbal testimony, and stuff like that. And there are 6 astika darshanas and 3 nastika darshanas. Now, in the 6 astika darshanas, there is a darshana called Sankhya that does not believe in a creator God. So it's not necessarily that Astika means you believe in God and Nastika means you don't believe in God. Basically, the Astikas derived their epistemology and dialectics by saying that the Vedas are the authority, and the Nastikas, which includes stuff like, Cārvākas, that I call myself a Cārvāka, or the Jains and the Buddhists, they were Nastikas because they rejected the authorities or the supremacy of the Vedas. They said, you could get knowledge out of the Vedas and outside the Vedas. So that's the distinction in Hinduism. So a Hindu atheist necessarily does not go through anything you guys go. Now another question. So you say you're an ex-Muslim, but your origin obviously is Pakistani. Now, for me, Pakistan was created because before we separated, the whole movement was, Muslims and Hindus are 2 separate nations. They cannot live together. They have to separate. So Pakistan was created on the basis of those Muslims in the British India that agreed with this concept went to Pakistan. And they separated and they had their Muslim country. The Muslims who did not agree with that concept, or some who could not migrate or whatever, they stayed in India and they chose a secular Republic of India. Now, the moment you say you're ex-Muslim and you're a Pakistani, you cease to be a Pakistani in my view. But what I found interesting, even when you were with Waleed and Sham on the discussion, you were talking about, nations evolve. But then my counter to you would be, then why the hell did we create this in the first place? It was such a loss. I mean, you across the border, you're from Punjab, I guess. My ethnicity is Punjab. We lost a lot of lives. What the hell was that for then?
Yeah, well, so yeah, because we can't go back and change the history. So I mean, if you want to say, I mean, it hurt me a lot to actually come to realization that even though it might have seemed like a good idea to Jinnah at the time, that that is absolutely imperative to have 2 separate countries, one for Muslims, one for Hindus. In the long run, though, that turned out to be a bad idea, because we can see that by and large, there's still a lot of problems in India, but by and large, India is okay for Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs, and just like any other third world country where education is like there is some fundamentalism in India, and I see this nationalistic fundamentalism in India is actually is more of a trouble than religious fundamentalism that we have in Pakistan. But by and large, if Jinnah was alive today, I don't think he would have been asking for 2 separate countries. Now, that doesn't mean that now, as I said, like, I mean, the countries evolve. I mean, Pakistan, even though it was founded on the basis of religion, doesn't mean it's going to stay like that forever. I mean, it doesn't always have to stay Islamic Republic of Pakistan. It can become a Democratic Republic of Pakistan at some point, or just the Republic of Pakistan, or whatever. So now that's already done, and you can't disavow your nationality. I can. I refuse to renew my passport until I can put atheist on my passport. But for that, I have to go to Pakistan, which I don't think is a good idea.
Oh, it's a very bad idea.
Yeah, so so I've written to them a few times, and that's what I've been told, that you have to go to Pakistan, file a petition in the court, and explain that this is a new law that they introduced last year, that if you want to change your religion from Islam to anything else, you have to appear before a magistrate's court, which is disgusting. I mean, what does state has to do with my religion? But that's how things are in Pakistan, and it's unfortunate. But I have a belief that it will evolve. Intelligent people always inherit the future. That has always been the case. I mean, the masses that are uneducated, dogmatic, or fundamentalist, they don't tend to bring any change. So if Pakistan is going to go through a change, it's going to go through a change of by the intelligentsia. Now, is that intelligentsia going to be is going to have a big proportion of secularist or atheistic people? I think it might be. I think the Islamic world is going to go through. I think it already is going through a silent revolution. The social media is doing enormous amount of damage to Islam. People, more and more people, the younger generation will leave Islam in a lot faster. I think Imran Khan recently passed a law that he's planning to teach Quran with translation to every kid in every school, state school, until the year 10. I think this is going to backfire. I think a lot of people are going to read that, and a lot of people are going to see the nasty things. I mean, when I was growing up, we read in Arabic. I fucking didn't know what he's talking about. We wouldn't read it with the translation. I wouldn't see any of the jihadi verses. So it's going to backfire to them that, the intelligent people will actually start discarding it, and we're going to have mass apostasy in Pakistan. So that's a good thing, I think. I always say, I mean, if you want to be an atheist, just just read the Bible, read the Quran, and you will become an atheist. These are the best propaganda books for atheism. So yeah, I mean, I can't change the nationality now. And now that I am a Pakistani, I was born in Pakistan, I would only hope that Pakistan will evolve. Sure, you can say ethnically we could be classified as Indians.
Well, you are. I was just going to say that.
Yeah, so that's fine. I mean, that's what you want to call ethnically. That's fine. I got no problem with that. But my passport does say Pakistan. Well, that one is expired. I do have an Australian passport. But yeah, I think yeah. I unfortunately I am a Pakistani. Not unfortunately. I mean, I'm not ashamed of that. I think it's a country. Even though the legal system of that country might want me hanged, but I don't hate the country, because I know that's not all Pakistan is all about. There are a lot of great things in Pakistan, and if you ever get a chance to go to Pakistan, you would find a lot of brilliant things. And that's why I say countries are not good or bad. Countries are just countries. I mean, if you want to look at a country as like, mountains and rivers and roads and bridges, then fuck, it's nothing. But if you want to look at people are complicated. The good people, bad people. Yes, majority of Pakistanis are religious people. When it comes to religion, they kind of lose their brain, and they have a tendency of becoming barbarians. But even within that, it's complicated. Most Pakistani Muslims, as emotional as they are about Islam, as you could probably see what's going on with this cartoon saga, you're only going to see a few thousand people in the streets who would be dancing up and down and shouting and screaming death to West and death to America and death to India, even though India's got nothing to do with that. But
you know how it is.
Yeah.
So please bring India somehow.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Bring India, bring Jews, and bring America. Now this time Netherlands is on the kick. So it's just it's sad. It's sad. It's pathetic, but it's complicated. So I am a hopeful person. I think I hope for the best, and I think things are going to change. I think the newer generation is gonna get better and better. If you look at the human trajectory of human civilization, it's always going up. It's always improving. So I have a hope Pakistani society will improve, and hopefully it'll become secular one day.
I always say this every time. I mean, I've lived in the West. I keep going to the West. My wife is basically a Canadian, so she was born and raised in Canada. She's of Indian origin, but yeah, she's a Canadian. So
Are you in India now, or you are in?
I'm in India. I came back to India. It's been 17 years since now.
Oh, right.
I've been living in India, but I keep going back, staying in the West and coming back. I have a lot of family in North America. So I always say North America is my second home. India is my first home. It's like that. So, it stops becoming a vacation spot once you start knowing the street names. So it's like that. So for me, North America is not a vacation spot. But like I always used to, when I was studying in Canada, I would meet a lot of Pakistanis. Well, so if you would meet any Pakistani who would question the edifice or the creation of Pakistan, I always used to say only one line to them. I was like, "You're an Indian. Welcome to the family, brother, or welcome to the family, sister." That's all used to that. And some of them used to really like it. Some of them would be indifferent to it, and some of them would take offense to it. I always found the part of taking offense to me inviting you to my family, because in my head I'm crystal clear. If you reject the idea of Pakistan, which is being attached to Islam, and you say you're an ex-Muslim, the default identity you get by default is that of an Indian. I don't care what religion you follow. Even if you are a practicing Muslim, but you discard the concept of a theocratic state of Pakistan, in my view, you become an Indian Muslim. I don't believe that Indian Muslims want a theocratic state. Yes, and I'm waiting for the Hindus to backlash at me right now, because they'll hear me saying this and they'll be like, "Oh, you don't know this mullah said this in India." Yeah, I get it, but I'm talking about the larger Muslim population in India. They are very well, adjusted in the ethos of the country. They are fine with how things are, and yes, they'll always, you'll. While I am worried about the sudden Arab influence on Indian Islam since the last 20, 30 years, and it is a worrying trend in India, I'm not denying that. And how I wish, the mullah lobby in India, who have become the thekedars of every Muslim in India, and I hate it, but I still believe, and this was my personal experience when I would interact with Pakistanis and Indian Muslims. I mean, I have Indian Muslims in my family. There is a difference. There is a distinct difference between an Indian Muslim and a Pakistani Muslim. Not every Indian Muslim speaks Urdu, right? They would speak the language of that state that they belong to. So there could be a Marathi Muslim. In my case, there could be Punjabi Muslims, and they know Urdu or Hindi, but they speak their language, and the accent is different. And I always say Indian Muslims are more Hindufied. I know that term is going to trigger a few people, but I always say they have that Hindu influence of them.
No, but even Pakistani Muslims are also more Hindufied Muslims than they are Arab Muslims. Now that has changed a little bit in the last 20 years or so with Saudi Wahhabi influence. But the most majority of, especially Punjabi and Sindhi Muslims, are more Hindufied Muslims. I mean, we have very similar rituals that are similar to, some of the Hindu traditions, like Nazar Lag Jana, the evil eye concept is very massive. Is massive in Punjab and Sindh. Like like hanging a little chapel at a brand new car. There are no which is similar to putting a black tikka to save yourself from an evil eye, which is more Hindufied, but there's no concept of that in Islam. So and there are tons of other things like that. I mean, going to shrines, for instance. I mean, that is very Hindufied. There's no concept of that in the Arabian Islam. And as you said, within India, the Marathi Muslims will be actually a lot different from Punjabi Muslims, and that's what it shows, that these religions are actually pathetic and baseless, because they always have the local cultural influence. So what is the fucking point? You are basically just and every person of every culture thinks he has the best form. A Marathi Muslim would believe that he is actually, or she is the actual real Islam, the real Muslim, and everyone else is somehow deviated from the true message of Islam or whatever. So, but going back to your point that so if you become an ex-Muslim, then the whole concept of Pakistan coming into existence on the basis of religion becomes null and void. Well, yeah, maybe, but again, like I think it's an irrelevant position because you can't go back and change history. I mean, yes, if that question would have been more relevant in 1943 or 40, just before 47, then I would have said, yeah, look, I'm in favor of united India. And also, not necessarily I would have said that, because that still would have depended on the situation between how Muslims were being treated in India, or what the perception was that how they would be treated. Now, this is a problem which I've found in a lot of United Akhand Bharat or United Indian promoters, that and as I said, like, I mean, I admit that with hindsight, we can see that India is doing okay. It's okay to be a Muslim in India. There's no major problems. Yeah, sure, we've had Hindu-Muslim fasadat here and there, Hindu-Muslim riots here and there, but by and large, it's okay. We've got Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, the president, Abdul Kalam was his name or something.
Kalam.
Yeah, so it's okay, but we don't have a Hindu president yet. Yeah, they make a different argument that we don't have that much majority of them, but Constitution of Pakistan is pretty discriminatory. So India doesn't have that, at least on paper. At least the Constitution of India is secular, which is a great thing, and Pakistan should learn something from it. So I would have also thought, even if I was an atheist, and if I genuinely believed that the Muslims in India will not do well, based on the current climate, by current I mean the climate of the 30s and the 40s, then I might have said, let's make a different country for Muslims. Now, again, as I said, with hindsight, obviously it turned out to be wrong, but that's not true for that time. So Jinnah probably genuinely believed that the Muslims of India would be better off creating a separate country. I mean, Pakistan is going through all types of turmoil. And as I said, like, now we know that imagine all these 200 Muslims of West India were in the United India in 2018, they would have been no different from the other 18 or 20 million Muslims in India that are living there now. So it wouldn't have made much difference in the 21st century. So, but again, but Pakistan is formed now. What do you want to do? I mean, we can't do anything. We can't go back and unite India again. It's not going to happen for another 100 years or something, if we ever evolve to that stage.
Oh, I don't think so. It's ever going to happen. And I'll give you.
It could happen. It could happen in 100 years. Who knows?
Oh, I don't know. For that, Pakistan would have to de-Islamize at such a huge scale, which I don't think so is tenable, at least in the next 100 years, because I don't know. I don't see it happening, because it's just the nature of Islam, is very different. I think Christianity was very successful in rejecting, the dogma in a way, and they kind of found their way out of that. With Islam, they have the benefit of hindsight about how to fix that problem too. So you have to understand, if we have the benefit of hindsight of looking at what religions do, religions also have the same thing. So they know what did not work for the previous religion. So they are going to fix it. And the propensity to violence, the propensity of violence amidst Islam today is very high. And that's the scary part. Like, I feel scared, like, you coming on my show and talking to me openly. In fact, somebody just commented on the live chat about the same thing, that, is he not concerned about the risk he invites from the radicals? I mean, they literally ask this question. Imagine, that's the first thing that comes into your head, that aren't you worried about the risk? And I would love Pakistan to become a secular state, and even if they want to be separate from India, I see no big deal, because the moment Pakistan becomes secular, it will have a great relationship with India, and I would be happy. I mean, I would get to see my nani's house eventually, which would be nice. So
yeah,
it is what it is, but yeah.
Well, look, I mean, Islam is a problem. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Islam is a problem. We know that already, and Islam has been evolving for the last 1400 years. However, slowly though. But it does evolve, and you're right. I mean, religions learn as well. So, I mean, the modern imams, the imams of the mid 21st century, are going to, but they're going to have to come up with some major changes. I mean, what is not working in the Muslim Reformation process, as opposed to what worked in the Christian Reformation? Islam has a major problem with the concept of Quran being the literal word of God. I mean, it is almost impossible to change the Quran. Now, that is a problem. Now, how are they going to get rid of violent verses? How are they going to get rid of misogynistic and homophobic verses? How are they going to do that? Now, that is a challenge for the reformers. They try to do mental gymnastics all the time. They try to say, well, I mean, the most famous wife-beating verse. They have tried to, the modern ones, they have tried to come up with different versions. By striking, it means gently strike. By beating her, beat her with a handkerchief or something. Some even say by strike, it means just hold a strike, like you're protesting. So these are all the mental gymnastics. They're desperate to come up with something new, but what they cannot do, they cannot just press the delete button on that verse. So that's where the problem with Islam is. I mean, there's a huge group of Muslims that is rising in number. It's called the Quranists. So what they're doing, they're throwing away the hadiths, they're throwing away the biography of Muhammad, they're throwing away everything, just so, because it's a lot easier to manage the Quran because it's vague and poetic, and it's not clear, so you can misinterpret it. But it's a totally different ball game with hadiths. Hadiths are explicit: kill the apostates, throw the homosexuals off the rooftops, beat your wives. Or okay, well, with wives, I don't think there's explicitly it says beat your wives, but there's a story Muhammad hitting Aisha. So that's why, I mean, that's a challenge for Muslims. I think they'll have to come up with something. Otherwise, they're going to be mass apostasy. So Islam is going to become irrelevant with time. So I don't know. Maybe any major change is only 1 or 2 generations away. My children would be, and their generation would be a lot less Islamic than the today's generation. We do go through ups and downs. In the 50s and 60s and 70s, Pakistan was actually quite moderate. I've often said it. It changed a lot in the 80s with the Arabization, with the jihadis coming in from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan and all those countries, and Saudi Arabia to do the Afghan jihad. And a lot of weapons were given to the civilians to go and do a jihad against the Soviets. So it actually got Islamized a lot. And now we are they have to de-Islamize Pakistan, and I think they will succeed to some extent. Musharraf tried it, and the climate wasn't right at that time, I think, because the war against terror was still fresh. This anti-West sentiment was still very fresh. But again, like, I mean, as I said to Sham, that if we have true democracy, if we have better education and more amenities to life, luxuries of life, like nice cars and houses and air cons and luxuries of life, people will become less and less religious. And again, like, Islam will be just like how Christianity is in Western countries. Yeah, okay, we'll go to church once a day or once a week. Fine, big deal. Some wouldn't even do that, and then it'll eventually die out. So yeah, I mean, it's a fool's dream to say, well, India and Pakistan will be united one day, but I don't know. I mean, who knows what can happen? So I think how I see Pakistan is it has to become yeah, as you said, I mean, it has to be de-Islamicized. Islamized, sorry, it's not Islam. Yeah, it has to be de-Islamized. That's the first major step. And I think it's going to happen slowly over time. I think.
I can imagine all the Akhand Bharat folks waiting to hug you. It's like, yes, see, this is Pakistani saying India and Pakistan will be one.
No, I'm simply exploring all of all the options. I don't think it would. It may happen. It may not happen. I don't know. I mean, I do. I like to think that I belong to a human family and the human race only. As you earlier said, that that is probably not enough, because unless we are under a threat from an alien species, we don't have any reason to be united as humans, which is sad, I think. But I don't know that this. You would have heard this phrase that I'm a global citizen. I truly see myself as a global citizen. Unfortunately, I would not be able to go to any Muslim country. But apart from that, I think I would be able to go to any country. And I don't feel, I wouldn't feel any specific nationalism towards any country. I read a comment somewhere. There's a comment on the live chat. According to Harris, his nationalism is perfectly all right. I think he's being sarcastic. I don't understand.
That's okay. Yeah. This is the one thing I don't do, is read the live chat while I'm having it.
No, that's okay. I think it's best if we do read that. So in case if I have something to add, I can actually clarify my position. So yeah, I think he's probably thinking from my comments, because I've said a few things that he probably didn't want to hear from me. About being hopeful about better Pakistan.
No, it's not that. I'll tell you what. So here's the thing: you have so you made a comment on your concerns about rising nationalism and patriotism in India. So you know what?
Right.
This is the part of the conversation I think I can explain a lot of, which I believe are misconceptions amongst people who observe India or Indian politics from the lens of Indian English speaking news channels. And I'll tell you how. Now there are 2-3 things in it. So when RSS or BJP or the larger what we call Sangh Parivar, right? When they talk about nationalism and patriotism in India, let me tell you, they really don't bother about the definitions and the origins of nationalism. And it's, let's say, nationalism has many flavors, right? There was a nationalism in Europe, which was the concept of the fatherland, and that was ethnic nationalism, right? Now, for Indians, the RSS worldview is very different. If you go and talk to a real RSS pracharak, someone who works in the RSS, is a hands-on RSS person, and let's do one thing. The next time I come to Australia, I'll find out who are the pracharaks of RSS in Australia. I'll set up a meeting for you with them. And then you can ask them the questions. And I'm telling you the answers right now, and you'll see they will not vary. So what they'll say is, when they say Hindu Rashtra, they don't mean a theocratic state. What they mean is, India, before the British, gave India and Pakistan their separate lands or pieces of land, they say Bharat was always something. So they believe in the concept of a civilizational state, like China is a civilizational state, right? So China has some value. So what RSS talks about is, yes, we are the Republic of India. Yes, we will follow the constitution, but don't deny what they are talking about is the ethos of India. They want to clarify that the ethos of India is Hindu. And what is a Hindu according to RSS? According to RSS, the Hindu is not something that has any theological root. And RSS has kept on changing its versions too. So if you read a Golwalkar version, it will be different from a Rajju Bhaiya version. It will be different from a current book by Ratan Sharda ji, who is, a spokesperson of RSS today, who I know personally. So the thing with RSS is, they say Hinduism keeps changing, so will RSS and its conception of Hindu Rashtra. So Hindu Rashtra would have a constitution, which is the current constitution.
Yeah, so
the past of India is.
Yeah, so my problem with that is, my problem with that is, I mean, because as you said, and I don't understand much Hinduism, so I'm not going to argue with you on that. So if they have, if you know that there's so many versions of Hinduism as well, like, okay, and then within Hindu religion, more more I look into it, more complex it seems to me, and I feel like I know nothing about it. And this is the problem I have with the term Hindu atheist as well. I think probably Gnostic is probably the better word, which someone might correct me and say, well, Gnostic does mean atheist. My problem is with the word Hindu. Like, I mean, why call yourself Hindu then? I mean, are you trying to identify yourself on the basis of your geographical position?
Yes.
Or you're doing it on the basis of a certain code of philosophy that you follow, which includes all the chakras that you just mentioned before. What is the need to stick with the word Hindu? I mean, what's wrong with Indian?
Oh, so I'll give you an answer to that. For them, Hindu is literally a geographical location. Anybody who is from what we call the subcontinent is a Hindu. So even if you're a practicing Muslim. So again, like I said, Hindu is the broader geographical identity, and under that are different darshanas. So Islam is also a darshana, which is an insight within that family. So they are not concerned about that, because you have to understand, Hinduism inherently does not have that concept of conversion either. Although Jews are converting now as a response to Islam and Christianity. But if you look, if you were to pick up any book of Hinduism, they literally started converting because Arya Samaj at that time in northern India, in Punjab, and it originated in Gujarat, but Arya Samaj became big in Punjab. And at that time in Punjab, conversions were a huge issue. And they were the Muslims say, we have one book. So what do we say? Okay, we have one book, Vedas. It's literally...
I get it. I get it. And this is why I say, why insist on using the word Hindu when we know that there's so much problem with that there is a religious baggage with the word Hindu.
And I agree. And they say dharmic. That's why I say I'm a dharmic skeptic. I never say Hindu.
Yeah, exactly. So that is why, I mean, I think I read a tweet somewhere that they were addressing to you that hope you know that what his views are Hindu atheists is. I mean, that's why I say, why insist on using the word Hindu? I mean, if it's just a word on geographical location, fine. I mean, Indian is India. The word India also is a lot cooler than Hindu, I'd say. But now, even if you intended to use Hindu purely on the basis of geography, but now it has become it has become a religious term. There are people who are dogmatic within the Hindu identity, the people who worship deities, the people who follow a certain type of philosophy as a religion. So why use that? And I think that's just, if your intentions are good and you just want to use a certain type of philosophy, again, I don't think anyone should have any philosophy to follow blindly or be so emotionally attached to it. I mean, that's what happened with communism. If you become a hardcore Marxist, you get Lenin, and that's the reason I don't understand why people insist on using the word Hindu. Just use India. Like, I mean, if Islam became a better example is actually Jews. I mean, the term Jew is actually now also used as a race, and that's why it's such a problem for Jewish atheists, and they have to call themselves, well, I'm a Jew. I mean, my race is Jew. I mean, the DNA actually says that they are they're Jewish. I don't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea, but Jewish faith, even though it started as a faith, but because a certain group of people in a certain geographical location were predominantly who adopted that ideology or religion, most of them are that. And even if you are an atheist like Ben Stiller maybe or Sam Harris, I mean, they have the Ashkenazi Jews. That is their race, but it's the same term, the word Jew, that causes a lot of problem. I would have liked if you had a different term, and that's my only problem with that.
This is my counter to that. Today, even the term liberal has become bad. So how much of a slippery slope are we going to go down then? See, every term and every identity is going to get corrupted by some people are going to abuse it. So why would I lose this word because there is some asshole somewhere? It's like, there are bad liberals today. And I mean, look at the world. Some of the people who call themselves liberals have gone crazy. Should we stop calling ourselves liberals? I would say,
I don't think. Well, yeah, the terms are important. I agree with you. I mean, the left has actually gone crazy. I don't think liberal has gone crazy. And the definition of left has changed, where they've become. I don't even know what they've become, and people have lost the meaning of what's left and what's right. But yes, we have added a new word to it, which is a classical, old school liberal, a liberal from the 70s and the 80s, and that's what I would define myself as. But it is important to keep yourself distant from bad ideologies, bad titles. If if okay, perfect question you asked. So, I mean, if ex-Muslims, if the term ex-Muslim gets hijacked by some really bad genocidal people who used to be Muslims, but they are actually ex-Muslim, but they actually say, well, you know what, we want to kill every Muslim on earth. Wherever you find a Muslim, kill them, or whatever hardcore ideology they follow. Yeah, you're right. That term has been hijacked by these new group of ex-Muslims who are actually very militant. So I would start differentiating myself from them. I would say maybe I'm a classical ex-Muslim, or I would come up with a different term or something. If it gets corrupted, then yeah, I mean, and Hindu term is a very old term. So I think if it has gone corrupted now, I don't think we should be so mad at the assholes, because words evolve, languages evolve, and they change over time. And if it's corrupted now, well, bad luck. Let's just. You've already said it yourself. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's corrupted. I would say it's become too loose that a lot of people can fall under that, which may or may not agree with each other. I mean, India has one great thing, and I've always said it: the Constitution of India is just something that the whole of India should revolve around, and that's a secular democratic identity. That's it. And you've done well. You've got, as I said, like, you've got Sikhs and Christians and Muslims living under one Tiranga, which is a great thing. Pakistan has that problem. They can't give the equal rights to minorities because of this, because they cannot get rid of Islam, and Islam is a problem. So I think if terms get corrupted, maybe ditch them.
Yeah, but then it's a slippery slope, and it's never going to stop. Look, every time, every term is going to get corrupted. And anyways, well, it's like, what would I call myself eventually? There might be some assholes called Kushal too. I'm not going to abandon my name. So it never ends. So it's like that. We have to see, at the end of the day, the world will look at you, how you do. And yes, I believe there are general trends. And I'm not one of those people who denies there is a bigoted element within the Hindu Samaj. I'm the first one to call out anybody who goes on my Twitter timeline. I mean, I piss off Hindus all the time because I question these things, and it is what it is. But if you'll see, in the last 10 years, within the Hindu Samaj, there is this trend of using the term dharmic. They will say, and I'll tell you why they started doing that. Because, the left in India, they started accusing that you want a Hindu Rashtra. So now, what the frustrating part for me is, because at the end of the day, if you accuse me of something, you have to back it up with evidence. Now, I always ask these questions to Hindus who want a Hindu Rashtra and the left who thinks there will be a Hindu Rashtra. I say, define a Hindu Rashtra, because let's say if I say I have an Islamic nation, Islamic Rashtra. Rashtra means nation in Sanskrit, basically. So if it is a nation, an Islamic nation, I know they'll follow one book and they'll do. Hinduism, as it is in its current form, it is not fucking one book. It is too many books. So I always tell them. So there are the ISKCON.
So exactly. Yeah, no, but you can forgive them for their misunderstanding, as I'm also starting to lose you, because if it's so complicated, what exactly do you want? What is this Hindu Torah? What is this Hindu Torah?
Exactly. So this is where I always said, across India, see, you have to understand when everybody says, what was India? It was just separate nations. No, India was a civilizational state bound by dharma. Otherwise, why would a Adi Shankara, the great Adi Shankaracharya, who's formed Advaita Vedanta, one of the biggest darshanas in India, the Pithams, the mathas, they were formed all across India. At that time, there was no British India either. But Adi Shankara went from the southernmost tip to the northernmost tip of India. Even with Lord Shiva, his main temples, they are spread all over India. So there was always this concept of a united India. But Hinduism as a philosophy is very weird.
Yeah, but Lord Shiva though. So was there an element of a deity? Was there an element of religion somewhere which was keeping it united?
So one aspect of Advaita Vedanta gets reflected in deities. You could use a deity, you cannot use a deity. There are different aspects. That's the thing. For someone who's come and believe me, I can see it in your eyes because I have seen it so many times when I talk to many atheists in the West. They just simply cannot wrap their head around it. And believe me, it took me 10 years to wrap my own head around it. Because I read so much, because I was like, how the fuck can I criticize this thing? Okay, I need to read this book. Then I read that book. Then I read another book. Then I read, because Hindus had a beautiful idea. They're like, these jackasses, these Cārvākas, these Nastikas, they're going to come and criticize us. We will keep on writing new books. How many books do I read? I ran out of them. So I was like, I'm human. So I was like, you know what? I'm here. You're there. Let's just live our lives. And the biggest function in Hinduism, you have to understand, is Hinduism believes in what I call mutual respect and reciprocity. So we might disagree with each other, Harris, but I will give you the respect and you will grant me that respect. Now, what happens with
but not everyone would do that. But not everyone would act that way. I mean, if you're a man of a 21st century, you're an educated man of 21st century, so your values might be like that. But whenever we know this in other cultures as well, whenever we introduce dogma into something, we get fundamentalism of some sort in that. I mean, that's why why do we see these some random Hindu would beat up a Muslim guy for killing a cow or something. I mean, I'm simply saying, I'm not saying that all Hindus are like that, or they don't get criticized.
Bad people in every culture. That's
yeah, exactly. No.
But
yes, exactly.
Not out of a theology. There is a difference.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. But they are they're motivated by it, by this identity that they are Hindus and they have this duty to protect the cow. I mean, a Muslim would also argue till the cows come home that, funny the pun, that Islam doesn't teach you to go and wage jihad in peacetime. A Muslim would also argue that. And they would find some sort of a justification to defend their point of view that, yeah, well, maybe we don't have to wage jihad on a neighboring town in India, let's just say. So my point is, but again, there are dogmatic beliefs within Islam which can lead to other types of Muslims like Osama bin Laden to go and attack the other countries. And then there are other Muslims who say, well, we don't have to do that. My point is exactly that dogma can lead you to different types of fundamentalism and different types of interpretation. As you said yourself, that there are interpretations within Hinduism that are so vast and so complicated, and that's why we have different types of Hindus. And within that, we will have some sort of Hindus who would be violent, who would become fundamentalists, and they might find. So the answer alone, that yes, fair enough. Maybe it's not directly coming from the actual Hindu philosophy, but that dogmatic philosophy or the dogma, by that I mean by any blind belief in any philosophy, you can become fundamentalist and then you can become problematic. I mean, if I believed in evolution as a way of life for myself, the theory of evolution, I might become a staunch believer of a survival of the fittest, and then I might start defending my position as well. I am stronger than that poor man, so maybe I can steal $100 note from him because I'm fitter than him, and I have a right to be survived. My only point is that you can, from an ideology, we can become fundamentalist if we are dogmatic towards it. So
that would apply to anything in life, any idea
exactly.
To that. But see, at the end of the day, how do we counter that? I say the biggest failure, India's biggest failure is not India's religiosity. India's biggest failure, in my view, is India's law and order. And if you ask me, and now we can enter politics in India. If you ask me, that what is the biggest failure of the Indian state in the last 71 years, is India has an abysmal law and order problem. It's the state of law and order in India. If you look at the ratio of citizens to cops, right? Yeah, I mean, if you look at international standards, we consider for every 50 to 100 citizens, there should be one cop. That's the international standard. It's ridiculous in India. It's like 400 or 450, the ratio. How are we going to maintain law and order in a country? I mean, you can be as pacifist as you can. I mean, there are ideologies in India that believe in not hurting a fly. Literally, like Jains. Jains don't believe they don't believe in hurting a fly, but even Jains hit each other sometimes because they don't take Jainism seriously. So it's the point is not that India's problem, and this is where the biggest failure of the Indian political class. It does not matter if it's Congress or BJP or Aam Aadmi Party or all these goddamn religious, regional political outfits in India. They have destroyed India in terms of law and order. We just don't have cops, man. Nobody's manning the streets for signals. I mean, everybody breaks signals like it's Sunday every day. Let's go. They say road mere baap ki hai.
I saw Akshay Kumar commercial. My mother loves those Indian channels. I think I saw it on YouTube or Facebook somewhere. It was a very funny
campaign. Road tumhare baap ki nahi hai.
Yeah, exactly. It was very hilarious. It was hilarious. Anyway,
yeah, but
go on.
That is India's problem, and I always believe that the biggest
problem with every third world country. It's a problem with every third world country. I mean, you obviously have been to West, and you've seen how every time I used to go to Pakistan, I used to say, why the fuck these people can't stand in a line? Why can't they form a queue? Like the moment you land at the airport, you see the difference, and you just cannot work out why is it like that. I mean, the same passengers who were just fine in a London airport, the same people now, as soon as they've landed in Pakistan, they've just started going everywhere. And it's just, I don't understand. It's just, it's the law and order in every third world country is poor. Yes, I mean the countries that are rising, they have to do it. I mean, it's they don't have to reinvent the wheel. As I said, like, I mean, the Hindu title, I think, comes with a lot of baggage. That's all I can say on that.
I get it. I mean, it's not a title that I'm telling you, Indians are not going to give it up because it's like that. I was once with a Hindu friend. I was like, the damn Nazis took our swastika. I mean, it was not ours. They what the fuck? They're like, our swastika meant the most peaceful thing on planet Earth. They took some Finnish or I don't know, whatever symbol from some obsolete church, and they have it's like the other way around. It's like a ulta swastika, and they fucked it up for us. And my friend was like, how many things am I going to give up? I'm not giving up my Hindu identity. Fuck the mad people in the Hindu religion.
Yeah. So see, that's another reason that shows you this emotional connection with any identity. I don't have any emotional connection with any identity. As I said, like, I mean, even initially I told you, like, okay, I have to define myself as an ex-Muslim only because it serves a political purpose. But I don't have any emotional connection with that. I don't go and shake hands with people and say, hey, I'm an ex-Muslim. I mean, that's not how I identify myself, nor I will identify myself. Once it becomes a normal thing, there's no point in identifying yourself as that. I think emotional connection with any identity, even though you emphasize that it is important to have, humans need some sort of an identity. I think further we can get away from those identities. That's why a lot of Western thinkers as well are ditching the idea of identity politics. If you look at throughout history, identity politics has done a lot of damage to the world. And that's why this emotional connection with any identity, in my view, is just not a good idea. And that's why I said nationalism might be a problem in India, and Hinduism, just like Muslim, is being my identity is I'm a Muslim. Look how much trouble it's causing. It's not because their ideology is so fucked up, because we've had worse ideologies than that, or maybe not worse ideologies, but we've had just as bad ideologies. I mean, Nazism was a very bad ideology, and a Nazi was a very bad identity. But again, the emotional connection with any identity, I think it can lead you to fundamentalism.
See, my counter to that would be a fundamentalist will be only so fundamentalist will only act upon the fundamentals of his ideology, right? So the probabilities of a Hindu going cuckoo, if he followed Hindu books to the core, and the probabilities of anybody else going cuckoo if they followed the Old Testament, or the Quran to the core
Yeah.
are very different. I mean, imagine what would a Jain fundamentalist be like? Jain fundamentalist will be like, there is a fly here, and he does this.
Let's not kill it. Yeah, so yeah, I understand that. I mean, I'm not comparing different ideologies in the absolute terms. Yes, sure, but what's the population of Hindus in India? Is it 900 million or 1 billion maybe?
1 billion.
Yeah, okay, so it's 1 billion. How many of you do you think have studied Hinduism to the extent you have studied, or
Not
some
even
of the
5%.
other? So there you go. So most the other 95%, which is 950 million Hindus, are going to have some sort of a biased emotional relationship with Lord Shiva, with Lord Rama. He's going to go to the mandir and he's going to do all that, and he's going to see someone, a Muslim who says something bad about Hinduism, or a Muslim who says, okay, well, it's my right to eat a cow. That is going to cause those problems, and that's why I'm saying, like, whenever you mix it, sure, I'm willing to give you that maybe Hinduism is the best ideology humanity has ever come up with.
Oh, I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, even if we are overly charitable, but as you said, I mean, it's easier for people to become emotional, and same is the problem with Muslims as well. They fucking don't understand Islam. I would say, yeah, 95% of Muslims have never read the Quran with translation. They don't understand it, and that's why I say, well, they're on the other end of the spectrum. If they understood the ideology, they would ditch it.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, if more Hindus understand Hinduism, they might be better off. But either way, I think, again, identity. What is so special about any identity that we have to hold on to it?
People always ask me, right, why, if Hindus have not read Hinduism till that extent. I mean, I'll tell you, the funniest aspect, every time you'll talk to an atheist, oh, look at the Manusmriti. And I always tell them, do one thing, do a survey of every single Hindu you have met in your life. Every single Hindu. You can do an anecdotal survey, right? Ask them in their household.
You get a sample.
In their house, how many of them have a Manusmriti? I'll tell you what books you'll find in the Hindu house. The number one probability of having a book in a Hindu house will be the Ramayana. Mahabharata in northern India is never kept at home because there is a taboo that, they say, if you keep a Mahabharata at home, you'll have fights. So it's a very silly. So they'll not keep Mahabharata at home. So the most probable book in India will be the Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana. That's it. You will not find a third book. Or probably some people might keep one or two Upanishads, but you will not find, who keeps the Manusmriti in their house? It's only the Indian Marxists. Nobody has the Manusmriti in their house other than the Indian Marxists. I have so much family in India, outside India. I don't have one family member other than me who has the Manusmriti. And, obviously, why did I read the Manusmriti? I was like, what the hell is written in this book? I want to read it. And another difference, see, why am I telling you this is because I think, why are you? Because some people might watch this because, hey, Harris is on this guy's show. Why am I saying this? Because through you, I'm trying to tell people like you, or people who watch you and listen to you, that there are many things to reject in Hinduism, and I reject them, and I'm fighting my battle. But my battle gets screwed when there are Abrahamic templates being put on Hinduism. It's like, somebody comes and says, oh, the world is 6,005 years old. You Hindus believe that. I'm like, no, Hinduism does not believe that. I mean, did you not see?
That's very stupid. I think any educated person would know that the Hindu philosophies are one of the oldest philosophies, surviving oldest philosophies in the world.
Origin of
they've
the
been
earth,
totally independent.
Yeah, and the origin of the earth, the date that Hinduism gives and what modern science gives is actually basically overlapping. I know it's hard to believe. I don't know how the hell they managed to come up with that, but
what did they say? What did they say?
Exactly.
Can we actually
3.7 billion years.
Can we actually verify that?
Oh yeah, you can go and see the text. It is funny. You know how I found out about that? Carl Sagan in his Cosmos.
All right.
Yeah, and Carl Sagan had this 15-minute segment in the Cosmos, and I was like, oh damn.
I think I remember seeing something like that. Yeah, okay.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I'll tell you what we don't need to believe: the concept of rebirth. I mean, how do you know that? There is no evidence for that. I'm sorry.
Or
I just
karma.
don't buy it.
Or karma.
Yeah, karma depends on. If karma just means that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, I got no problem with that definition of karma. But the moment you say there is some bank account that, whatever you do is getting calculated, and in your next life you're going to get a birth of a certain type
No,
of
but
organism according
no,
to
but
that,
not
I don't buy it.
no, but not even in the next life, but even in this life. Like, I mean, if I did something wrong to an old widow last year, then I might have to pay a price at some point. I mean, it's a good, it's a feel good emotion. Like, I mean, it feels good that there will be some justice, but
That
I
could
may
be
get away with it.
that could be karma as an altruistic way of dealing with things. I don't buy that
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. So for me, I'm very clear. I know what I reject in Hinduism. I know what a Nastika rejects, or I know what we do. We have specific ways of looking at things, and we have our own pramanas. We only follow one pramana, and every other pramana has to be subject to that. It's like that.
But imagine if Greeks started putting Aristotle's writings in every house, like as Bhagavad Gita. Like, I mean, it's if most people don't have those books, they don't want to read it. Fine, then don't read it. I mean, knowledge is another thing, which whether it's philosophy or science, or if someone doesn't want to know about it, then that's fine. Which is why I have a problem with Hinduism. That's another reason that I would say, why hold on to it? I mean, if you have to study it as a philosophy, why have that book in every house to actually study it, what it stands for, what it means, etc. I mean, I just see that as a useless exercise. But anyway, that's my point. I think we can move on to something else now.
Oh yeah, let's discuss politics in Pakistan. So I was very interested in your views on the new Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's such a great thing for Pakistan?
Well, because he's an honest person. I genuinely think he's an honest person. I genuinely think he means to do well for Pakistan. But by well, I mean the people of Pakistan, like education, law and order, economy, just those things. And obviously, whatever he thinks about religion, obviously, I don't want to have. I mean, I don't like that. But I know, given the circumstances, he's the best thing Pakistan has. And he might actually be proven to be the best leader for Pakistan if he actually completes his 5 years. Again, I think I've often said it that I would rather have an honest Muslim as my leader than a dishonest atheist. So yes, religious views I don't agree. But if he gives education to people of Pakistan, if he gives healthcare to the people of Pakistan and improves the economy, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but then how much do you think he's going to be successful in terms of negating the role of the Pakistan army in the day-to-day work of Pakistani politics?
It's such a big, trumped up, exaggerated charge that that Pakistan gets accused of that. Army is very powerful. No one is denying that. Army always plays some sort of a role in the government, especially the foreign policy with India. So India is right when it comes to Pakistan's foreign policy with India and probably with America. But it is not involved in the day-to-day politics of Pakistan. It doesn't tell the government of Pakistan, it never has said that, okay, well, this is the education bill that you need to pass. If that was the case, then Pakistan would have been fixed a long time ago. The amount of corruption we've had in the civilian governments is just mind-boggling. The amount of, and you can see that how bankrupt the country is, how much foreign loans they have to take to keep keep the imports coming. It's not in the interest of army. I mean, army has its own. Army distrusts the civil government and their policies so much that they, in the 80s, they started their own business ventures and they are somewhat self-sufficient in maintaining the budget, because if they left it to the civilian government, they wouldn't even have been able to maintain their annual budget. So army is not daily involved. India's concern is fine that Imran Khan is not going to be able to make any landmark decision when it comes to India. I mean, let's just say, but he's strong enough. He's intelligent enough that he could actually tell the army, well, okay, well, this is what I'm going to give a go. I think we could, improve the trade first. I think we can do this. Well, whatever solution he comes up with. So he can actually influence that. But no leader, even in India, can you think of any Indian prime minister who would say, well, you know what, we are just going to hold a referendum in Kashmir? It's bigger than any prime minister, whether it's India or Pakistan. It's bigger than any army chief, for that matter. It's such a big issue that, I mean, countries don't give away pieces of land as charity. It just doesn't happen. It's an unrealistic hope from Pakistan that, okay, well, Kashmir banega Pakistan. It's just stupid to say that. And it's stupid for India to expect that, well, we can talk about everything, but let's not talk about Kashmir. There has to be some sort of a middle ground solution for it. And I don't think, so I think this charge is extremely exaggerated, that army is involved in every day to day. It's simply not. It's just not. It's not logistically possible for the army.
Yeah, but here's my counter to that. Which army or which country would have such an army that's involved in manufacturing products for day-to-day life? I mean, while it may not be managing every single bill that comes out of the politician's desk, but at the end of the day, here you have an armed force in a country that is basically manufacturing things to maintain the economy. I mean, that's not the job of the army, right?
Yeah, well, it's so like 4G Foundation, where they make cereals and some biscuits and all that shit. So well, as I said, there was a distrust with the civilian government. They thought that they will go bankrupt, and they wanted to make sure that they can keep whatever the budget is. I don't know how much it is, $11 or $12 billion a year or something. So they wanted to keep that going. Oh, and actually, I think I'm exaggerating. I don't think it's that much. I think is it 4 or 5 billion maybe. So they wanted to do that. It was done as an experiment, and it took off. I mean, I will kudos to them if they can. I reckon more governments should do it. More armies should do it. I mean, a lot of organizations have endowment funds where they invest in the stock exchange. A lot of universities do it. A lot of hospitals do it. So why not armies? I mean, you could argue against it that could probably lead to monetary frauds. Like, okay, where is this money going? Are they also going in with some clandestine operations that the civilian government doesn't have any knowledge of, and they somehow become independent of the civilian government? Yeah, I can see the problems with that. But I don't know. It's a monster that was created at some point, but I don't think it's that much of a monster that would eat up Pakistan itself. I don't see that much of a problem with that. I don't think it's involved in day-to-day role. The India's concern, and I see the point in that Indians see, what's the point of speaking to Imran Khan if army is going to decide everything? Well, speaking to Imran Khan is something that you can, if there's a strong leader in Pakistan, he can convince army to do what is a right thing to do, or what they might see, okay, is beneficial for Pakistan. So yeah.
But see, this is the problem. That's why, you hear the famous line in India where, India is a country that has an army and Pakistan is an army that has a country. And,
I've never heard that. It's a good one.
That's what we say all the time in India. That, I mean, I know.
Exaggerate.
Yeah.
Exaggerate.
And it's, I mean, at the end of the day, when you hear things like, in my head, I was like, my nana was in the armed forces in India, and imagine my nana involved in making cereals and shit like that. I was like, what the hell, man? You're supposed to protect the borders, and it ends there. I mean, what are you doing? Why are you doing all of this? And it is a messed up scenario, and I feel bad. I mean, at the end of the day, I keep telling people that no matter how much you want to avoid the reality, Indians and Pakistanis are the same stock. You may not like it, or you may like it, whatever. We are the same stock, and you feel bad what's happening over there. And it's in India and Pakistan's benefit that we have good relations. But so that's my second question. Do you think under Imran Khan that there is a chance? Because I know you're very active in, and you follow Pakistani politics and you write about it too. So do you think that, under Imran Khan, you think there is a hope of some kind of an improvement in the relations of India and Pakistan?
There is a chance, but I think nothing's going to happen until your elections. I don't know if. Now, I don't want to sound too Pakistani, but I don't think that that the Modi Sarkar would be interested in that to an extent. Imran Khan would be, just because Imran Khan is in his honeymoon period. That's why I think that he might. When you get something new, you're like excited. You're like, yes, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. We see that with American presidents all the time. That we're gonna bring the peace to the world, and then 6 months later they become exactly like everyone else. So there is a chance Imran Khan would become exactly like that too, because there are real problems in that. I mean, forget about the fucking army. Pakistani public gets so worked up whenever India Pakistani high leadership meet and there's no mention of Kashmir from Pakistan's side, then all the daggers are out against that politician. That why did you not bring up Kashmir? And I think on the other side, Indians talk about, let's talk about everything else, but don't you dare, don't give them a platform to talk about Kashmir. I was watching the whole Sidhu saga. The way he's been attacked and criticized, and I'm thinking, what's the big deal? They're making a big deal out of, why did you hug Kayani? Fair enough. You think that, okay, your Jawans are dying, so maybe it's not appropriate. But what about other? That was just one of the things that actually happened. But what about other things, like why could Kapil Dev could not come out of a secular democratic country and go and visit his old best friend Imran Khan? Or why could Amir Khan not come there? Why could Sanil Gavaskar not come there? I know the official excuses that they've given, but come on. It just doesn't sound right. I mean, and Modi sounds to me a really hardliner. That's why I think I was told to Sharma that if I was an Indian, I think I would strategically, ideologically, I think I would have been on the Congress side. I don't know how corrupt they are. And I think Modi might be good for India himself, because he might not be corrupt. But again, I am, as an outsider, I don't know about the day-to-day policies or politics of.
That's the thing. That's what I wanted to touch upon. I'm glad you brought this specific line, because I had literally written it down. I'm going to talk to you about that line you mentioned, that you would have voted for the Congress. And here's the thing. So from what I've understood, you hate identity politics, right?
Yeah.
And correct me wherever I would place any wrong analysis out of this. You hate identity politics. Yeah. You're not big on appeasement or any kind of whatever. I use the word vote bank kind of the vote bank politics. So this is India. So bear me out. So you're gonna give me 2 minutes.
I do understand the limitations of vote bank, but I think on the foreign affairs, someone has to show a spine somewhere. And it's a lot harder with democratic countries. If you are an authoritarian country, like, for example, when Pervez Musharraf was the strongest, and this is what we've been told over and over again, that when Musharraf met Vajpayee, that was the only time when we came anything closer to something that would even remotely look like a solution, like demilitarization or something. But that only happened because Musharraf was a strong army man. He was a dictator, so that he had no one to answer to. But it's difficult with the democratic governments. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, so now here's the thing. If you dislike identity politics, tell me, how would you vote for a political outfit like Congress in this country. For the record, I have no option. That's why I vote for BJP in India. I want to state this on record. In Hindi or in English, we say beggars can't be choosers. That's my position in India. Congress is the political outfit that says the Indian state will control Hindu temples, but not mosques and gurudwaras and Jain temples and churches. This is the Congress.
Huh? I don't know. That's pretty bad. I mean,
just keep on. I'm going to say Congress is a political party.
Is it written in the constitution, or it's like one politician said it at some point and then people have twisted it?
These are laws in India. I'll give you another law. Under the Congress government of Sonia Gandhi on Manmohan Singh, there was a law, an amendment passed, which is called the Right to Education Act. Guess what? All the minority schools are not under the Right to Education Act. Which schools are there? All the majority schools. These are discriminatory practices. India is a unique country where the state, and I say this with full responsibility, anybody can prove me wrong, I challenge them openly. The Indian state positively discriminates against its majority. India is unique. India has...
Well, Western countries are going that way as well.
Exactly. They have lost their bearings. I always have my friends in the West. You know what you guys are doing? You're doing India 2.0.
Or maybe India is doing West 2.0 in that sense, because they... this is a problem with leftist governments where they go too far on the left, where they start appeasing the other side. I mean, in order to look overly secular, they start discriminating the majority people. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But what is the alternative? What is the alternative with BJP?
The alternative is you vote for BJP, and eventually, when Congress and the idea that Congress represents is politically finished, BJP should be broken again. Yes, this is a BJP voter speaking to you. BJP should be broken, and then we get some sensible political option in India, because everything, it's basically choosing between cow shit and buffalo shit in India. Literally, I'm saying that.
Well, we had the same problem. Well, we had the same problem in Pakistan, and that's why the third party came into power, which is like we were also choosing between dog shit and cat shit in that sense.
In India, we don't have that problem. We have enough political outfits. They are all left wing. Yes, BJP is a left-wing political party in India. If you remember our Facebook conversation, I was like, I can play this game with you where I just pick up manifestos of political outfits and I start them to you, and you will be like, oh, no, this must be Congress. No, it will be BJP most of the time.
So what is the left-wing point that you can quote from the constitution of BJP?
Well, I'll tell you, not just the constitution of BJP. Let's say the latest law this current government has passed, right? So they first created a cap on what should be the maximum price of stents. You know, the stents we use in the hearts?
Yes.
So they created a cap on that. Now, that's not a right-wing policy. That's a very left-wing policy. Then they they were not satisfied with that. So I was just reading an article recently where the current BJP...
No. Okay, well, I'm not necessarily talking about the economic left and right. I'm talking about the social left and right.
Okay, so social left, well, BJP does not believe in any kind of discrimination. BJP does not believe. Name one thing in the BJP manifesto which says that Muslims in India will be eliminated or should be eliminated. BJP has Muslims in its political outfit. In fact, I'll tell you, and the classical allegation thrown at BJP is that they don't give enough seats to Muslims. Well, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, BJP has a perception problem. It is only going to field candidates that they feel are going to win an election. I'm being very honest. Now, Shah Nawaz Hussain, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, and now at the municipal level, you have far more Muslims as candidates of the BJP, because eventually now the BJP is becoming palatable to Muslims. I'll give you another example. In a recent election that I worked on, in the municipal elections, that constituency, if Hindus would have voted for BJP, the candidate would not have won by more than a margin of 300 to 500 votes. And in municipal elections, that's the margin. Usually in Mumbai, 300 to 500 votes is the margin. That guy won by 3,000 votes. Guess what? All the Muslim women voted for BJP. You know why? because BJP passed the law of triple talaq. We are banning triple talaq in India. Now, who got this nonsense in India all these years? It was Congress appeasing Muslims. Who did the Shahbano case in India? Congress did. Congress basic. So there's a famous story.
Okay, all right. It's a good side effect of that, but was it done out of love for humanity, or was it done out of spite for destroying a Muslim tradition of triple talaq? I mean, I'm glad it's gone.
It was both. It was love, and it was also obviously for obvious reasons.
Let's fuck him up.
Yeah, no, but I think it was more of the love part and less of the let's fuck him up part. I'm being honest. Look, I'm not that BJP apologist. I don't get paid by the BJP. Whatever I do is in my own rights. And I'm telling you, if Muslims want to come up in India, they should vote for BJP. Their only chance of coming up in India is with BJP. They have no option, because Congress and the edifice that Congress stands for, they want Muslims to remain illiterate, infantilized, poor, so that they vote as a group. The moment Muslims start thinking about their own selves and they start thinking like individuals, the whole edifice of Congress politics falls in India. And you'll be shocked, more than Muslims still vote, in a dispersed manner. They'll be voting for regional outfits. But with Christians in India, it's even more one-sided. They all vote for Congress almost. So nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody is obsessed with the Muslim vote in India, because it's 14%, but Christians are 2% or 2.5% in India. And I think, if I remember my data correctly, I think more than 90% of Christians vote for the Congress. But and you know what happens is, people are not exposed to this side of Congress, because the Indian media, and I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the Indian media, especially the English language media, is so horribly left-wing and so horribly biased that the reaction to that comes in the form of Arnab Goswami, which is equally bad.
Yeah. Well, obviously, outsiders are not going to follow all these little politics or details of politics, what's happening in India. When a face like Arnab Goswami, we see that on TV, and then we see, okay, which party does he go for? Then you automatically associate. I mean, it's ignorant of us to actually think that way. But again, you would understand. Would you be aware what's happening in Australian politics? No, but if you saw which Australian party I go for, you will start making a guess that, okay, what kind of policies that party would have, because Harris goes for that, and I know Harris somewhat. So that's what we do. We're guilty of that. Well, look, again, I don't know what is going on internally. I've heard that Congress is a lot more corrupt than BJP at the lower level.
Corrupt at the financial level. The Congress is the most ideologically corrupt party. Congress has destroyed. See, you have to understand, people keep saying India is secular. India is not secular. I'll give you my explanation why. A secular state will treat every single citizen equally. The Indian state, positively discriminates in many cases against the majority at the cost of a minority. Tell me, if you're a Hindu and your temple is under government control and a Muslim's mosque is not, tell me one good reason why you should not get angry and go and vote for the political outfit that at least talks about it. Give me one good reason.
What was the logic behind that? Behind that law, that okay, we can bring temples under control, but not the mosque, even though mosques are probably more problematic.
Again, because it was easy to control and reform Hindus. Hindus had a caste problem. So they thought, to avoid the caste problem and corruption in temples, we will take over the temples when India got independent. And they just kept it like that. I'll give you another example. Why does a secular state like India not have a uniform civil code? Why are Muslims still allowed multiple wives in India? Tell me. If it's secular and the Congress is so open-minded and for secularism, why is it allowed? Why doesn't everybody have a single common civil code according to modern values?
No, but secularism would allow that actually. The true secularism is basically neutrality. That okay, we're staying out of your religious affairs. The uniform courts, yes, I mean it is a problem, isn't it? Like I mean, and that's the problem West is having too. But it is actually in line with secularist values. That you're a Muslim, you can do whatever you want. You're a Hindu, you can do whatever you want. We're not going to have a say in that. I mean, the state is not going to have a
unless
say in that.
there is a violation of your basic human rights. And I'm sorry to say that you cannot be allowed to divorce someone over strife by saying talaq, 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 or you cannot allow an inhuman practice like nikah halal that happens in India.
Yeah. But where are we going to draw the line? I mean, are we
the line. As long as there's no violation of human rights, you can believe in any booga booga. I don't care.
Yeah, but they don't see that as a violence of violation of human rights. I mean, Muslim women would be okay with that. I mean, I know they shouldn't be, and I've always said it.
You'll be surprised. Muslim women are not okay with that. When we go offline, I'll share some data with you and polls with you.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Like okay, what the Quran does authorize beating up of women. Beating of wives, but no wife would like to be beaten. So even a Muslim woman would say at that point, "Fuck you, don't hit me." But he would show him, chapter 4, verse 34. It's against human nature,
Nisa, right?
Yes, Surah Al-Nisa, Nisa. So it's against human nature to do it, but because the dogma is so strong that if you are told that this is how it is, then it's going to be like that way. And for another example is, I mean, women believe that this is because it's sanctioned by Islam. You cannot actually deny that. I mean, for example, let's just say a woman doesn't actually believe in the verbal talaq. Then even if her husband says talaq, 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 she should say, "Well, I don't care. But in her mind, she knows that now she's no longer his wife, so she cannot sleep with him, she cannot live with him. So in her mind, she already thinks that it's purely Islamic, and in the eyes of Allah, she's no longer a wife. So that is a problem. So she does believe in that. My point is, they do believe in that.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's a very simple line you have to walk, but sometimes the state has to overstep its boundaries.
No.
Tell people why they are uncivilized, that you're not civilized.
Yeah, but they're saying that we are a well, I sound like a Muslim apologist now, but they're saying that. Yeah, but they say that this is our religious freedom. It falls under religious freedom. I agree with you. These barbaric, pathetic things should be thrown away. Like we have in Australia, a country like Australia, in a Western democracy, a secular country, they have a problem with multiple wives. In the actual Australian law, you cannot have two wives. But they know that there are a lot of Muslims who have got multiple wives. They have 2 wives or 3 wives, and they're living multiple lives.
I think the state should crack down.
But they can't do that because a state says that we cannot get involved in your religious freedoms, and it's your religious freedom. 2 people are consenting. If a woman is consenting to be his 2nd or 3rd wife, who is the state to say that?
I think the state has every right to say that because, like I said, it's a violation of fundamental rights. Your right, your right to live with dignity. I'll give you another example. If a Hindu does anything casteist, where a Dalit is not allowed inside some place or as actively discriminated against, I'm sorry, the state has every right to fix that.
Yeah, I don't agree with you, but that doesn't fall under secularism though. That forms under. I mean, the secularism, in my understanding, is the secular state simply means you can go about your business and you can live your life. But that's it. Like it's like an atheist religion it's like an atheistic position for a state. Rest comes with your laws. Obviously, those laws would fall under. I don't think it would violate the secularism either. But yeah,
it does because the moment you stop looking at people as individuals and you start looking at them as groups, I think you're in violation of a basic secular principle.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah, I can't disagree with you. It is a problem, and if Congress is doing that, I would say that is appeasement.
And I always say this to people who hear this from me. I say it very clearly. Don't believe me. An average Google search, just Google keywords, Shah Bano judgment, 1986. The Supreme Court clearly said, she went to court. She said, you know what? I want maintenance. This guy has given me triple talaq. The Supreme Court basically ruled in her favor. The Mullah lobby went after Rajiv Gandhi, the then Prime Minister of India. What does he do? He makes a legislative decision that the Indian courts and the Indian state will protect its minorities. Would a secular state trample the rights of an individual over the rights of a group? Is that right?
That's then again these definitions are problematic. I mean, one of the values, and this is the problem, the dilemma the West is having too. That one of the problems that we have
paradox of tolerance.
Yes. So what do they do? And that's why I hate religion, and I think. And that's why I think it just creates more problems than it solves any problems. I mean, these pathetic old principles. I was reading somewhere that it said that even in the first and the second century, the elites of the world knew that the Earth was round, but majority of the world population thought the Earth was flat. And I always thought that there shouldn't be an elitist mindset, and there shouldn't be a general public mindset that what Ian Hersey calls it the bigotry of low expectation. That these people, wow, they're stupid, they're dumb, and majority of them are like that. So, but we are better than them. I never liked that, and I still don't like it. But it's bizarre that we have. We still have these religious ideologies where we think that they can hold these views no matter how pathetic they are, but we gotta be tolerant towards them. But I, as an atheist, I as a smart person, can go on and live a better life, more reasonable, more sensible. For example, in my case, like when I live with my partner, if I ever separate with her, I don't think we will have to go to the court. I don't think I'll have to say talaq, 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 or I wouldn't even have to sign a piece of paper. I would hope that we would both be civilized enough to say, okay, well, you know what, darling, you take that bed, I'll take that bed, I'll take that fridge, you take that coffee machine or whatever. Like we can decide that, and like civilized people where you don't need that. And a lot of people actually go about the business that way. But again, like, is that the elitist mindset? But probably not. It's probably a bad example because a lot of elites have messy divorces as well. But I was trying to translate that more so into how one group of people believe in a certain way of behaving in a society, and they just cannot get out of that. And I think the biggest hurdle is religion. I mean, if there was no religion, I don't think we would have had that problem. Or a lot of these problems.
We've been almost at it for the last hour and 15 minutes. So I want to end it on a positive. So obviously we can't change our histories. So I'm Indian, you're Pakistani, or you're Indian according to me, but you're still Pakistani.
Well, you can call me Indian too. Look, as I said, like ethnically, we probably are Indians. So it doesn't bother me. But yeah.
So what do you think? What role can people like you and I play in improving the relations between the communities that we have?
Well, I think first of all, we have to be honest. We have to be able to recognize our problems and identify these problems. When Pakistan has to recognize the problem, and it needs to drop this superiority complex of that we are right, we have this one true religion, and we have this by virtue of Muslims being in majority in Kashmir. That's why Kashmir belongs to us. That idea is gone. It would have made more sense in 1948. It would have made more sense in 1949. Just like how I say Akhand Bharat is a dead ideology. It doesn't make any sense. What happened in 1947, whether it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, probably wrong thing with hindsight, but at that time, doesn't matter anymore. So we have to be honest. We have to be real with our goals, what we need to achieve. And I think that would be the first step. And same with India as well. I think we need to stop beating the same drum over and over again. that, okay, well, you know, like, don't respect the Pakistani civilian government. I think Imran Khan is quite a genuine person, and I think he should be given a chance. And I think people, what Sidhu did was quite remarkable. And I don't know, I read it somewhere. I just read the headline. I didn't read the whole thing. And it said that he said he's pretty keen on taking a lot of Sikhs with him across the border for some sort of a yatra or something on Guru Nanak shrine or something. So people-to-people contact would improve and it would get better. India is huge. I mean, the southern Indians are more similar to Karachi people. Punjabi Indians are more similar to people like me. And I've noticed that difference as well, because now in the West, obviously in Australia, I meet a lot of Indians. I get along with Punjabi Indians more than I get along with Karachi Pakistanis. It happens with a few exceptions, of course, but and I've noticed the same thing with like people from Mumbai or something. You know, like, we don't get along. The culture is really a little bit different. The sense of humor is a lot similar with Punjabis, etc. So the people-to-people interaction needs to improve, I think. And when people, I mean, governments come and go, people come and go, but it's the actual cultures, is people as a group that force the countries to change. And that's what I am trying to do as a small, tiny voice. Hopefully my voice will get louder and louder with time. That I'm trying to introduce alternative ideas in Pakistan, that there is another thing as well. I mean, Islam is not everything there is. And I think same thing has to happen between India and Pakistan as well. That army is not the only, boogeyman that you can keep quoting. So there's a lot more to Pakistan as well. And I think things can improve. I am generally an overly optimistic person. So I generally think that things can be better. And I think we have to be honest. We really have to be honest. These indirect games and all this mistrust and backbiting and stabbing each other, who scores more points, I don't think it works. I mean, the global politics is so complicated. I think it's unnecessarily complicated. Just be honest. Just be loyal to your people, and be straightforward. Say, well, in my country's interest, this is how I think, and I think that's how we think Imran Khan would be. But again, now he's a prime minister. He might turn out to be just like everyone else. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree with you. In my eyes, it's very simple. At the end of the day, if you want good relations with your neighbors, I mean, I look at it this, you live in a housing complex. There are many people who live in a housing complex. It's not necessary you talk to every one of them. You pick and choose whom you want to talk to. I think eventually the solution to this is from people to people contact. When more and more people, like if I talk to you, I talk to guys like Waleed, you guys call me on your show, and we start talking about Indian Pakistani politics from a position where we are not getting any trophy out of it. It's just out of genuine affection for our own people. And I genuinely believe we are the same people. I mean, DNA analysis proves that. So
Waleed, by the way, is 99.98% Indian, confirmed. He did the.
Yeah,
I want to do that too. So you're right. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's gonna come from people like us. If we start talking about ideas without, like I always say, never attribute malice. I never attribute malice to anyone, and that's why I reached out to you, because when I heard you talk to Sham, I was so happy. I was like, wow, Indians and Pakistanis talking to each other. They're not shouting at each other. That's good. That's a positive change.
No, but although shouting at each other definitely makes it for a more entertaining viewing.
Yeah. So let's keep the entertainment for some other days. Listen, man, I really thank you a lot, and everybody who's gonna watch this, please go. I'm gonna leave a link for Harris's YouTube channel. Go and check out his discussions. He has some amazing discussions on Islam and various other cultural issues within the Muslim society at large. Go and check it out. And Harris, once again, thanks a lot for doing this, man.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Take care, buddy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.